A very good evening to everyone. So on behalf of the Department of English and Modern European Languages, University of Allahabad, I welcome the esteemed resource person whom we have here with us to deliver the fourth session of this workshop. I also welcome all the faculty members, research scholars, and students and other participants who have joined for this fourth session of Contemporary Horizons of Comparative Literature. Over the past sessions, we have explored different aspects of comparative literature. So we have explored the expanding frontiers of comparative inquiry, from crisis and modern relevance to the role of technology and writing in the humanities. And today we move into another vital dimension of the discipline, the transformation of discourse itself. Comparative literature has never been confined merely to the comparison of texts across languages and nations. As major scholars of the field have emphasized, it also examines the relationship between literature and other spheres of human expression, tracing how ideas, narratives, and forms of representation evolve across cultures and historical moments. In that sense, discourse transformation lies at the very heart of comparative literary studies. For every age reshapes the language through which it understands identity, power, history, memory, and culture. So today we are deeply honored and very grateful to Professor Gurupdesh Singh for delivering a session for us. He has a very impressive profile. He was professor and head at Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar, Punjab. And he was involved in several leadership roles, as well as took quite a few projects abroad. He was visiting professor at universities like the University of Oxford. So today's session promises to help us reflect on how discourse changes across time, how literary traditions respond to shifting ideological and cultural frameworks, and how comparative methods enable us to understand these transformations in a deeper and more nuanced way. In an era marked by rapid social, political, and technological change, such discussions are not only academically relevant, but also urgently necessary. So we are very truly privileged by your presence, Professor Gurupdesh Singh. So now I invite the head of our department, Professor Indrani Mukherjee, who has always extended a lot of support and encouragement towards the organization of this workshop, as well as other academic activities like this at the department. So, Professor Indrani Mukherjee, over to you to welcome Professor Gurupdesh.
Good evening, everyone. It is a privilege and a warm welcome to everyone joining us today. It is my privilege and great pleasure to welcome Professor Gurupdesh Singh to this online session on discourse transformation and comparative literature. This theme is both relevant and thought-provoking, as it urges us to reflect on how literary discourses evolve across cultures, languages, and historical moments. Professor Singh's profound scholarship has consistently engaged with the shifting nature of texts and contexts, encouraging us to look beyond boundaries and explore the dynamic exchanges that shape comparative literature. His work highlights how discourse is never static. It is continually transformed through dialogue, interpretation, critical analysis, and cultural interaction. It involves restructuring narratives, changing ideologies, and challenging dominant societal viewpoints to alter the notions of reality. I'm very grateful to Dr. Aloysius Sebastian for facilitating a virtual learning environment through this online workshop. We are highly honored to have with us an academic whose insights will undoubtedly deepen our understanding of how comparative frameworks can illuminate new meanings and perspectives in literary studies. On behalf of the faculty and students of the Department of English and Modern European Languages, University of Allahabad, I extend a very warm welcome to you, Professor Singh. We eagerly look forward to your address and the enriching ideas you will share with us today. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, ma'am. So now we invite Nandana to introduce us formally to Professor Gurupdesh. Nandana?
Yes. A very good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to all the participants present here with us today on this fourth session of the online international workshop on contemporary horizons of comparative literature, organized by the Department of English and Modern European Languages, University of Allahabad, Prayagraj. It is a pleasure to have you all with us today. Before introducing our esteemed speaker, I would like to briefly acknowledge and express my gratitude to our patron, Honorable Vice Chancellor of the University of Allahabad, Professor Sangeeta Srivastava, Chairperson and the Head of the Department, Professor Indrani Mukherjee, and Coordinator of this workshop, Dr. Aloysius Sebastian. For their continued efforts towards this program, it is now my honor to introduce our esteemed speaker for today's session, Professor Gurupdesh Singh. Professor Gurupdesh Singh is a distinguished academic and former professor of English at Guru Nanak Dev University with an illustrious career in higher education, language studies, and literary scholarship. He has held several key leadership positions, including Director of the Academic Staff College, Director of All India Services Training Center, Director of Distance Education, Dean of the Faculty of Languages, and member of the Senate and Syndicate. An internationally engaged scholar, he received a British Council scholarship for advanced studies at University of Leeds and later held research visitorships at leading British universities including University of Oxford and institutions in London. He also represented India at the University Administrators Meet in Southampton, UK. He has delivered more than 400 invited lectures and presented papers at over 150 national and international conferences. His major publications include 40 research papers, the widely used buzzword school textbook series, Midnight Songs of Nazar Kazmi, Science Stories and Sallies, and Ghalib's In the Glass House, Image Style Idea. His areas of expertise include comparative literature, translation studies, critical theory, teacher development, and higher education. We are truly honored to have you with us today, and we look forward to insightful session. So without wasting much of the time, I would like to invite Professor Gurupdesh Singh for this lecture. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, my dear. Shall I start formally?
Yes, sir, you may start.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for calling me to speak on this occasion. I think we don't know why your university has chosen to speak on or deal with comparative literature. I think it's the in thing, quite an in thing these days because of a number of reasons. And we will be soon kind of, talking about this. Let me just go to the proper first slide. Okay, this is the... Now you can see here why we have the new discipline of comparative literature or comparative cultural studies. You can see here, the first reason is globalized literature. With so much access available to us about literatures from all over the world, and I think the communication, the computers, and the say number of available sources of books on the net, we can see that we have easy access to globalized literature, which means we can see how other literatures in other languages deal with the same issues that we sometimes deal with. The second important reason is literature in translation, which is now one of the most popular ways of spreading across the world different types of literature. Now, we have seen in almost every country, every language has been translated into some international languages, which means we are now able to access literatures from other countries very easily. And the third, of course, is literature in media and arts. I don't have to tell you, I think most of you know that most of the time literature has been filmed, has been adapted into films and other arts. Not only films, we have known that literature has been adapted for the stage also. Sometimes literature also shows in paintings, in dance performance. It is all over. Literature can be seen in different forms in different arts. Now, my point in doing this lecture is not that I'll be dealing with globalized literature, which means that when you find literature dealing with the same events, let's say, or dealing with the same issues across countries, across languages, I'll not be dealing with that. For example, war. You could see that there could be a novel on war written in Britain. There could be a novel written on war by a German or even by an Indian. We would like to compare those things, but this is not the purpose of this lecture. My lecture is largely based on the next two things: literature in translation and literature in media arts. What happens in these two? In these two, the main text remains the same, let's say. And that text undergoes a large number of changes. That's why literary discourse in flux, ever evolving, ever growing, and ever renewing itself. The same text, I mean, there is hardly, I should not use the word even text, because the text also undergoes a change. But then what we have to understand is that every text or a discourse, I guess you understand, discourse is where you have a kind of a coherent chain of meanings built into a text. We can see that a text gets its meaning because of, let's say, temporal dimension. Means it is written in a particular time frame, and people try to relate it to that time, and with that time they try to understand its meaning, and that's what makes the discourse of that text. The other is spatial dimension, where you see that a particular text is placed in a particular context. When it is placed in a context, then probably also people start getting meanings out of them. And interesting thing about literature is that these two, temporal and spatial dimensions, are never finite. They are never, fixed. Literature can be heard, literature can be seen, literature can be read in different ages, in different contexts, and it has been interpreted in different contexts. Therefore, the discourse keeps on changing. The same discourse, the same text kind of undergoes change. My concern would be, how would you as a scholar or as an investigator or as a literary critic will handle these kinds of changes? That's what my major concern would be in the context of this lecture. Intertextual dimension is something very interesting. This is something that comes very importantly before us when we deal with, for example, translation. We deal with translation, we try to transfer the text of one language into another language. But there are so many cultural nuances, there are so many other textual references hidden in the text, and all those things remain untranslated. How do you handle that? We will give you examples. We will try to show you some of the things that happen when people do translation. Another thing is the never-ending tale of a discourse. We will also show you examples how a discourse or a text never ceases to end, ceases to be. What I mean to say is that you think a story has been told. There is a beginning, there is a middle, and there is an end. The story has been told to us. No. People go on renewing those stories. People go on retelling those stories in different ways. And when they retell them in different ways, what kind of comparison do they make? The challenge before the comparative discourse scholar is that he has to deal with the never-ending tale of a discourse. What you have today may not remain the same tomorrow, or what we had once is not probably the same as it is today. So the discourse undergoes a change. The same story, the same text has undergone a very, very large number of changes. And this primarily occurs because of the change in, let's say, space, change in time, and the intertextual depth of a particular discourse. Okay? People try to retell the stories from a different angle also. Am I clear so far? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, we'll go to the next one.
Yes, sir.
Now, this is I'll be dealing largely with examples. I'll not be dealing with any theory, please. And this is one of the best examples that I can give you of how a discourse in a particular context, when it's shifted to another context in another culture, undergoes a mighty change. You can see here. This is an article by Laura Bohannan, written like Shakespeare in the Bush. This is a story, it's an essay, but written in the form of a narrative. There's an Oxford scholar, this Laura Bohannan, and she was doing research in anthropology. And when she was there, she had to go to, let's say, a part of West Africa. There's a tribe called Tiv, and she used to go there very regularly. And this time when she goes, she carries with her a book called Hamlet, the play of Shakespeare, a play by Shakespeare. Now, when she goes there, after a month or so, when there is kind of a season, when people can't do much because of rains, and they were settling together in the evening and telling stories to each other. She was asked to tell the story, one of the stories from her culture. And she chooses to tell Hamlet. Now, I don't think I have to tell you the story of Hamlet, because most of you already know the story of Hamlet as told to us by Shakespeare. Now, the interesting thing is, one of the starting points is that Hamlet comes to know about the death of his father through the ghost of his father. The ghost appears in the night, and he comes to know that he was poisoned and he was killed. Now, this thing, when she tells them, these people are not at all convinced, because they don't believe in ghosts. The motive of ghost is completely lost on them. Well, they think ghost can be some kind of a shadow. They probably believe there is shadow, or there is some kind of an intimation that can come from above. But it cannot walk. It cannot disappear. It cannot speak. But when she's trying to tell all these things, they are completely, lost. They say, well, okay, go ahead, but then we don't believe what you're saying. Then the motive of nest and haste is lost. You know that in Hamlet, one of the major issues is that the brother of the king married Hamlet's mother. According to European culture or their tradition, brother is not supposed to kind of marry the brother's wife. And not only this, if at all they have to do this, they have to do it after a certain period of mourning. A certain time gap has to be created, and then you have to do this. But then in this case, the brother immediately got married to the wife of his brother. Now, when she was trying to tell this theme of incest and haste, these people were completely lost. They were thinking, well, that was the most legitimate thing. Because if the chief of a king has died, then immediately somebody will have to, take over. Now, in the European culture, it's the son probably who takes over. But in their culture, it's always the brother who takes over. So they say this is the most legitimate thing. And the second thing, where is the question of haste? I mean, they are small community. This is a village of about 140 people, and there are just communities around that. And everybody says that if the king is dead, then somebody will have to take care of the affairs of the entire community. And therefore, he has to immediately get a wife and the entire range of servants who can look after the entire thing. The haste is the most important thing for them. They have to immediately get her married to someone who can rule the community. And again, that theme of incest and haste is completely lost. Now, madness, you know that Hamlet and later on even Ophelia, they are kind of, they're feigning madness, or they are actually mad, but then they don't understand madness at all. For them, madness is being bewitched. Bewitched means that you are under the influence, some kind of a witchcraft. And you can be cured of also of this. There are someone, a kind of, a doctor, witch doctor, who can take care of you and who can take this. So the theme of madness is also completely lost on them. They think, well, he has been bewitched. And why didn't nobody kind of take care to get him cured? Because there could be witch doctors who could do that. Again, motive of revenge and killing uncle is completely lost. It's lost because Hamlet is thinking of taking a revenge, and he's thinking of killing his uncle. But now these people can't believe that. They say this is the most atrocious thing anybody can do in their community. The junior is not supposed to do this. If at all there is genuinely a murder, then it is the job of the seniors to take care of it. And it's the job of the seniors to look after it and see how revenge can be taken. A younger person cannot do this at all. For them, revenge is absolutely out of question. And you can imagine in this kind of a situation, there are other issues, the other major motifs of existentialism and ethical dilemma, which Hamlet faces, to be or not to be. She's not even able to talk to these people about those mental states of Hamlet. So you can see how when this kind of story is transplanted into another culture, how its entire value is lost. And not only this, I'm not going to tell you the entire thing because it's a long essay. They think, and they have almost, recreated the entire story. The Hamlet that we know of, Hamlet that Shakespeare presented, or the Hamlet that she tried to present is not at all, and it was completely renovated. And they had their own ideas about the story of entire Hamlet. I'm not going to tell that because I'm going to save time on it. My point in telling is that when one piece of literature is placed or transplanted into another culture, its meanings can completely undergo drastic changes. The discourse can be completely turned upside down. Okay? Now, this is another very interesting example. This is the example of translation. Most of you might have heard this little piece from Ghalib. It's a very popular thing which has been sung a number of times by a large number of singers, and nearly everybody would have listened to this. Ye na thi hamari kismat ke visale yaar hota, agar aur jeete rehte yahi intezar hota. Now this couplet, this was given for translation. There is an American scholar called Frances Pritchett. She has collected nearly 30 translations of this couplet, right? And you can see at least 3 of them here. I have brought 3 of them here. And this is how this has been translated. Ye na thi hamari kismat ke visale yaar hota. Those of you, visale yaar means the meeting with the beloved. अगर और जीते रहते यही इंतजार होता. Means I have not been able to meet her, and if I had lived a little longer, I would have probably waited more. Now, this is the translation done by one of the translators. To bed my love was not my happy lot. Had I lived more, that would have yearned my heart. Now, look at the word, to bed my love. For him, this meeting is purely physical meeting. For the translator, he has reduced the entire couplet to a physical meeting with the beloved. Okay, and he says, if I had lived a little longer, I would have gone on waiting, because this kind of thing was never going to be possible with my beloved. All right. Now the other one, William Stafford, this is done by Ajaz Ahmed. He has done it. I mean, I'm not going to tell you many more other things. This is one of the listed things, and he has translated it into this. It wasn't my luck to achieve heavenly bliss. No matter how long I lived, I would never have made it. Now you can see again, if the first person is talking of completely physical love, this man is thinking of meeting the beloved in terms of a heavenly bliss. It would probably some kind of a platonic thing, some kind of a spiritual thing for him probably. You can see that. But then again, he's talking of a different kind of love. It's not the same love as the first couplet tells you. The last one is given by Khushwant Singh. To be united with my beloved was not writ in my fate. Had I lived longer, it would have been the same long wait. This is somewhat neutral. It is just simply saying meeting the beloved. It's neutral. The second one is platonic, and the first one is, of course, completely physical. Now, my point is not this. My point is that all of them are great translators. All of them are very, well qualified to do it. But this couplet has enormous depth, which the translation is not at all able to carry. If you are interested, you can probably see in one of my articles. This is an article I have written in full-length, 10-page article written on this couplet alone, where I try to explore the intertextual depth of this. Just to give you a brief glimpse of it, just see how do you make meaning of these four terms. Ye na thi hamari kismat. What does hamari mean? Who is hamari? Hamari is the lover speaking? Because lover can very easily give himself a plural pronoun. He can give that because this is one of the traditions in Urdu language. Ye na thi hamari kismat means my lot, my fate. Is it one person speaking? Or hamari kismat? Is it the lover and the beloved both together speaking? Or is it hamari means it is the fate of human beings? Is it the fate of all human beings? Kismat ke visale yar hota. Right? Visale yar is meeting, in simple terms. Visale yar is meeting with the beloved or meeting with the friend. But visal is a very important word. You have to understand that visal is a word which is usually used in terms of spiritual love, in terms of your love for God. We as human beings have been separated from God. We were thrown on this earth, and it's a state of separation. And I'm longing for visal means I'm longing for going back to him. I'm longing to meet with him again. And how do you meet with him? Look, you meet with him only if you die. So is it a longing for death? We don't know. अगर और जीते रहते यही इंतजार होता, और जीते रहते. This little thing tells me that the person is no longer alive. Is it not clear? अगर और जीते रहते. It's clear that he is no longer alive and he is now speaking after his death. But then he says, अगर और जीते रहते यही इंतजार होता. यही means he's still in the state of waiting. Is he waiting on this earth or is he waiting in the heaven? If in the heaven he's not able to meet his God, then the meaning is lost. There is no, because he's looking for meeting. So what is the situation? What is the location? What is the context in which this couplet can be actually spoken? I'm not going to tell you this. My point in telling you is that there are so many intertextual references. Now, these intertextual references come from the literary tradition of, because most of the time, if you know, if you have read or if you have heard some of the Urdu poetry, then you know that most of the love poetry in Urdu can be interpreted at two levels. One is the level of the worldly level, where the worldly love is. The second is where you kind of go into the divine love, or you get into the spiritual love. And the beloved becomes your God. The beloved is not the ordinary human being. It's God. And there are instances of this. I think anybody who knows a bit of Indian writing, even in Hindi or in for example, Meera, when she's talking about love, do you think she's talking about the ordinary worldly love? Her lover is someone, you know, who's divine. So you can see that kind of in-depth is completely lost. And how do you retrieve it? How does translation retrieve it? This is where I think comparative literature will have to work very hard about it. Okay, we go to the next one. This is an interesting time travels, history, myth, and folklore. You know that Ramayan is a very old text with India. We think it came with Valmiki. But you have to understand that, no, in other countries where this was also popular, it was part of the folklore. It was part of the myth. And there are 300 different versions of Ramayan available to us as given to us by Ramanujan. Ramanujan is one of the very famous poets, and he has written this book on 300 versions of Ramayan. There is an Oriya Ramayan, there's a Tamil Ramayan, there is an Assamese Ramayan, there is this Ramayan, and there is Cambodian Ramayan, there is an Indonesian Ramayan, there is Thai Ramayan. There are so many variations on the theme of Ramayan. I'm just giving you example of one, that is Thai Ramayan. And there is an article written by Subhadra Discourse. This is available on the internet. If you can go back to it if you would like to. The difference between Valmiki Ramayan and the Thai Ramayan. You can see that. And the discourse completely changes. In Indian context, Rama is worshipped as God. He's kind of an ideal hero for us. Almost like a god. He's an avatar of Vishnu. You can see that. But in that country, it's more of in the... some of you who might have gone to Thailand, they might have discovered that they have a very strong dance performance, stage performances, and they are done on the themes of Ramayan. So Ramayan there is more of a historical epic, and it's more of a subject of arts where performance is very important. Dance performance, stage performances, it's done. And Ram is the symbol of royal power, military success. I don't know whether you know that their old capital was called Ayodhya. And their king is always called Rama. Rama 1, Rama 2, Rama 3, Rama 4, and so and so. So Ram for them is a symbol of the royal power, military success, and of court rituals, how court has to be conducted. It's entirely different. But the most important thing to me is not only this discourse transformation, even the events. Some of the events are absolutely abhorrent to us as Indians. You can see this. Sita is the daughter of Mantho. Mantho is Mandodari, who is the wife of Ravan. Sita is the daughter, listen to it carefully. Sita is the daughter of Mantho and Ravana, but abandoned abandoned in a bowl on the river to be picked up by Chanak. Chanak is Janak. We call Sita as the daughter of Janak, but we should understand that actually in their Ramayan, she is the daughter of Mandodari and Ravan. But why was she abandoned? She was abandoned because one of the brothers of Ravan, Vibhishan, he made a prophecy that she is going to destroy Lanka. Therefore, she has to be killed. Instead of killing, they put her into a basket or into a little bowl, and she was floated on the river. And Janak, another tribesman, another king from another country, he picks her up. Now, you can see in this something very, very, abhorrent to the psyche or to the spiritual faith of Indians. They cannot imagine Sita to be the daughter of Ravan, who was such a kind of hated person. Now, another one is that Hanuman is not a celibate. He marries one Pushmali on way to Lanka. And then another one called Benyakai, daughter of Vibhishan. And finally, he also marries the daughter of Ravan. He marries 3 times. He's shown as adventurous, who's someone who's a strong military general, who is a very strong helper to the king. But then he's also deviant in these ways. He's not celibate as we see in our culture. And he also has a son from Benyakai. This is a part of the Thai Ramayan. And the last one is Ongkot is Angad. Angad is the son of Bali. He's the son of Bali, born of Mandodari, again, wife of Ravan. Wife of Raman after snatching her from him. You should understand this. I don't want to tell the whole story. Bali, in fact, when these two were going to Lanka, Mandodari and Ravan, Bali snatched Mandodari and he kept her with him for a long time. And during that meeting, during that copulation, Angad was born. Angad is the son of Bali from the wife of Ravan. You can see. You can see these changes in the events in other Ramayans. And there are similar changes in the Cambodian Ramayan also. That Ramayan is largely based on Buddhist ethics. And power is legitimate only when aligned with karma, compassion, and moral restraint. Nowhere in these two countries Ram would be considered as something like a god. He would never be considered as God, and he would be not worshipped, but he would be considered as someone who is a royal power and who probably can rule the country with a certain kind of a moral ethics. Okay, now this is how you can see that some old myths, some old texts can undergo discoursal changes. This is the only example. In fact, there are large number of examples from Mahabharata also, and there are a large number of other stories, old stories, which have undergone changes. We will not kind of talk about them, but this was just an example to tell you that how during time you have to see that Ramayan was popular right from the 12th century in Thailand. But a proper copy was made somewhere in the 18th century. And these things are based on those texts which I'm talking about. Okay, another one. Now this is again another one. When media adopts literature. You can see this. This is another important change. These days, you have seen that most of the literary books have been adopted as films, and you can see even in India, Vishal Bharadwaj has done so much work on. He has translated Hamlet, Othello, Macbeth into Hindi films, and he has done this trilogy. He has produced this in Hindi. But do you know that Shakespeare, for that matter, has been filmed and turned into movies in almost 20 different countries? And when they change, when they not only adopt, but they also adapt in the sense that they kind of take up the story, but completely change the characters. In one of the stories, King Lear, for example, has been adapted by very famous Japanese director, where the three daughters have been turned into three sons, and those three sons are sumo fighters, sumo wrestlers, and the story turns into that. Okay, here I'm giving you example of how our scripture of Gita has been adapted or adopted or shortlisted or even say reduced in certain films. In actual, Lord Krishna, the theme of the entire Gita is immortality. Not only this, we are talking of life and death only. On the theme of life and death, he says the immortality of the soul. The soul is immortal, which means soul lives on, life, is temporary, transitory. Death is transitory. Life is soul putting on new clothes. Soul remains the same. People die, and another person comes up, which means the soul has only changed its clothes. Transmigration, which means that from one life you enter into another life. The soul enters into another life. Karma is where you kind of do your act and you kind of make your second innings with second birth. You do this with the help of the kind of good things that you do as your karma. Surrendering to divine will. You have to surrender to the divine will. You have to surrender to the dictates of God, listen to it, and he's the one who controls your life and death. Now, Gita has been used in these three different films, let's say. B.R. Chopra has done Mahabharata. Most of you have seen that. And there, this dramatization of Bhagavad Gita, you have seen. And most of the time, you see that he is presenting a summary, largely a good summary of this thing, where the dramatized part can be visualized. That's okay. But there is another person who has done something very great. And this is Peter Brook's Mahabharata. I don't know how many of you have known this or seen this. This man got so much impressed with Gita that he took up the entire project of Mahabharata. And he took good 6 years to make a 10-hour-long drama on Mahabharata, 10-hour-long drama. And he did it for good many years in Europe. And finally, he also decided to make a film out of it. And then he made the film 6-hour-long film. The good thing is, if you are interested, this film is available on YouTube. You can go back to it and you can see this yourself. Now, there, his European orientation interferes with Gita. There are a large number of changes that you can see in his story of Mahabharata, but then we are not talking about that. We are only dealing with Gita. There he talks about the continuity and infinity of life, not the rebirth. You can see that. I'm not able to read some of this thing, so just give me a minute. This continuity and infinity of life, powerlessness of death, which is fine. He still remains close. But no reference to rebirth or soul. There is no reference to rebirth or soul in his entire. in his speech of Krishna. If you want, I can read out that little poetic thing. It's a very beautiful poetic thing that he has used in that film. These are the lines. I'll read them to you. He says, pay homage to death, glorify in song. But I tell you, death is negligence. It is ignorance. And vigilance is immortality, your karma. Death is a tiger crouching in the bush. Crave children for death. But death cannot devour a man who has shaken off his dust. It's powerless against eternity. Death is, because life continues. You have to see this. Death occurs, but then life reoccurs. Immediately there is new life that comes in. And he is more into that. He's not much into the philosophy or theory of rebirth as given to us in Mahabharata. I'm not going to read the whole of this, but you can read it or listen to it yourself. It's beautiful poetry. There is more to it than I have just read. Then you can also see that most of you have seen Guide. And you can see that in Guide, towards the end, Devanand, when he turns a Swami, and in his phase of being a Swami, when he kind of, understands the value of soul, and understands the value of spirituality, he understands the will of God, he understands the value of faith. When he understands all these things, then he speaks a lots of words which are akin to Gita. And I'm not going to give you all those things, but here is a bit summary of this. His way of putting Gita is, it's a submission to God. When you surrender before God, everything, life becomes free. You are given freedom because you don't have to take charge of things now. You can leave your will in the hands of God. Death is mere play. Life is freedom, and death is a mere play. It comes and goes. The realization of soul is the final enlightenment. When you realize that there is soul that works, that lives, then I think you get that prakash. He uses the word prakash. You get that enlightenment. Body may suffer and die, but soul is immortal and eternal. You can again see that he has, in very brief terms, he has put this in the form of the message of Gita. You can see how Gita gets transformed, or Gita gets retold in different forms, in different situations. Media cannot entirely, because you know that Gita is a very large volume. It's a very huge volume. Everybody cannot take care of whole. They pick up little pieces. They pick up little pieces and they plant them in their own way, in their own narratives. You can see this example happening very, very strangely in today's film. Dhurandhar. Most of you have seen Dhurandhar. And if you know, there is that song about, Dil hai toota mera, main ishq jalakar aa gaya. If you have heard that song, this is a song about Dil toota hua. And suddenly he kind of, breaks into saying, na to karwan ki talash hai, na to hum safar ki talash hai. Now, this is Sahir Ludhianvi in one of the films, where he is actually eulogizing love to the limits of divinity. He is talking about love and its immense reach and its immense impact, that love can almost make you spiritual and almost can turn your inward mind into divinity. He's talking about that. But look at here, these lines have been transplanted, where he says, Dil hai toota mera, main ishq jalakar aa gaya. Literature can be transplanted like this. People can use bits and pieces of literature and they can transplant them anywhere. This is the great quality of literature, because it can be context free also at times. And you can see here, people have transplanted Gita in their own way, in their own context. These are the contexts where Gita actually was needed, and probably they have done it, but then they have selectively. The selective part is very important. Even in historical texts, then when people they pick up certain parts and they plant them into their text. We have to kind of see how they are able to compare with the original, with the authentic. The important thing about another issue about this is that who will decide what is authentic? This is very important. Do you think Thai people would understand that their Ramayan is an imitation of Indian Ramayan? No, they would consider their Ramayan as original. And not only this, this kind of thing, this transplanting of a certain part of literary merit into different contexts is not happening today. It's not happening. It has been happening for a long time. There are a large number of passages which have been attributed to Meera, and there are scholars who tell us that she never wrote them, because their language is entirely different. She comes from Rajasthan, and she was speaking and writing in Rajasthani dialect, and these things come from a different dialect. Kabir has been, they have become part of folklore. When they become a part of folklore, then these things are actually, become a part of the body of masses, and they keep on adding their own things. And they can do it in whatever way they would like to. We have to be very careful when we see comparisons between one kind of. Ghalib is another one. Ghalib has been attributed to a large number of useless couplets. Ghalib would have never written those things. Those of you who know that Ghalib was a very strict editor of his own writings. He nearly gave up, abandoned 2,000 verses. He says, no, I would not include them in my divan. But then today, people of all sorts write all sorts of things, and they attribute it to Ghalib. These things can happen anywhere, okay? And we have to be careful when it comes to comparison. What do we compare it with? Okay, and we have to see that even these changes are a part of the literary studies. Okay, the next one. Now, when I said the never-ending tale of a story is this. Stories, they don't have a beginning, they don't have an end. What you come to see or read is the middle part of it. You, for example, pick up a story, let's say any story of, say, Dickens or Lawrence. Do you think the story part that you read about Paul was the only Paul? There was Paul before this story, right? There was Copperfield when he was introduced in the book at a certain age, but there was Copperfield before that age also. And if you remember Sons and Lovers, you know that Paul in the end was left abandoned. He kind of is left abandoned on the river in a boat. Now, what happens later on? We don't know, right? So there are stories after the actual story has been told, and there was a beginning. There was something before it. Now, many people do this kind of work. They keep on extending stories, and they extend them from their own perspective. Interpretation is very important. Every discourse, every story, every text has been interpreted from a certain point of view. You know that those of you who are into literary studies, that people can read the same text from a large number of different points of views. They can read a story from post-colonial point of view. They can read a story from a feminist point of view. They can read a story from eco-friendly point of view. They can read a story from psychological Freudian point of view. I mean, they can use all different point of views to understand a story. So the story doesn't remain the same. The discourse doesn't remain the same. The same discourse assumes different shapes. And here are some examples that I have given you here. The hare and tortoise. You have heard this story, I think, as a young boy. The story is that there was a tree on the banks of a river, and there was let's do this story first. Monkey and the crocodile. Okay, there is a tree on the banks of a river, and on the tree there used to live a monkey. And monkey used to pluck some good fruit from there, and he used to kind of drop it into the river where there was a crocodile. And the crocodile would eat that fruit, and he found it so delicious. One of these days, he took that fruit to his wife in the river, and the wife was so happy to eat that sweet fruit. And she made a proposal. And she said, if that monkey's fruit is so beautiful, I would like to eat the heart of that monkey. Now, crocodile goes and he really kind of, makes good friends with monkey. And he says, my wife would like to meet you. Come over. And he asks monkey to sit on the back of his, on his back. And he floats goes into the river. Midway, the crocodile tells him that actually my wife wants to eat your heart because you are so sweet. And the monkey was very smart. The monkey says, oh, my dear, if that was the case, you should have told me. I have left my heart on the tree. Let's go back and pick up my heart. And the foolish crocodile takes him back, and monkey jumps out and then mocks at him, and he says, go ahead. Now, this story, Nam Joshi is very famous. Nam Joshi is one of the very famous writers who has done Feminist Tales, a book called Feminist Tales. She has turned most of the common folklore, fairy tales, common tales, Panchtantra tales, she has turned them into feminist tales. And her version of this story is that the monkey is taken to the other end of the river, and where he lives for good 6 months. And when the monkey comes back, monkey is a female. When the monkey comes back, she is badly brutalized. She has lost her teeth, she has lost her eye, and she's badly injured, wounded. This is what she says happens when a woman falls into the prey of a dubious person, of a dubious man. Crocodile is man and monkey is a female. She has turned this story around to make it a feminist version. The hare and the tortoise is the common story. Everybody knows that they wanted to have a race, and the race was where the hare kind of loses the race because he takes rest, and the tortoise, who goes very slowly reaches the end. Now, there is a management version. These people have drawn a management version, those people who are into the business of teaching people how to manage things. And they say, well, this time the race happens not once, the race happens twice. On the surface, on the ground, the tortoise takes the hare on its back, and both of them reach the destination at the same time. Right? And when they are in water, and the hare, when they are on the ground, the hare kind of goes along with the tortoise, and both of them together reach means that they both reach the destination at the same time. When the race is on water, then the tortoise carries the hare on his back, and then again they reach the other end together. Management is trying to teach you the story of teamwork, how these two, instead of being rivals, instead of being competitors, they have to be partners. They have to be team workers. Both of them together can do this work very well. Edward de Bono is another one of the major thinkers on creativity, and he has this story of Jack and Jill. The stories are recreated for a number of reasons. If you know the Jack and Jill nursery rhyme, then you will know that there are a large number of gaps there. Let me tell you. The nursery rhyme. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. In Hindi, जैक और जिल दोनों पानी भरने के लिए ऊपर गए, और हुआ क्या कि वहां पर जैक नीचे गिर गया हिल के ऊपर, और उसका सर टूट गया, और थोड़ी देर बाद जिल भी वहां से लुढ़कती हुई नीचे आ गई. Now, Edward de Bono says there are so many gaps in the story. And he says, first of all, who is Jack and Jill? Are these old people? Or are these young lovers? Are these two young kids? Or is it that one is the police officer, the other is a criminal? He is thinking of a number of situations in which Jack and Jill can be. But then he says it's a suspense thriller to me, because Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. कहता पानी नीचे होता है कि ऊपर होता है? ये ऊपर क्या करने गए हैं? कुछ और बात है यहां पर. कहानी में सस्पेंस आ गया. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. पानी लेने गए थे. Jack fell down. Nobody tells us कि जैक कैसे गिरा. हाँ, ये बताया गया कि उसका सर टूट गया, पर यह नहीं बताया गया कि वो मर गया है या जिंदा है. And Jill came tumbling after. अब जिल क्यों गिरी भाई, ये भी नहीं पता हमें. जिल क्यों पीछे पीछे लुढ़कती आ गई, ये क्या हुआ? So there are so many gaps in the story, and he builds a beautiful suspense thriller out of this story. People can make stories, just as you know that in Indian films there is a theme where I think two people love, and there's a third person who kind of blocks their love, or is a villain who interferes with their love, and in the process what happens is that there is a long story of struggle, and finally they meet. Similarly, he says this little story, this little nursery rhyme can generate hundreds of stories, and people have created. That's why story. Now, these kind of stories are recreated. Even previous versions that I have been talking about, people have been creating new stories out of the same theme. How do you compare them? They make very good subject for comparisons. You can see here, Mahabharata has been narrated from different points of views. Draupadi, that's the narrated. Mahabharata has been narrated from the point of view, not of Ganesha, who was the script writer, or Vyas, who was the writer. Of that. No. People have written stories from the point of view of Draupadi. The name of the novel is The Palace of Illusions, Chitra Devakurni. And there is another story written from the point of view of Karan's wife. The novel is called The Outcast's Queen, Kavita Kane. There's another one written from the point of view of Kaurav. And the name of the story is Ajay, Epic of the Kaurav Clan, Roll of the Dice, Anand Neelkantani. You can see people can tell the same story from so many different angles. Stories never end. So there is an ample room for you to make comparisons, make comparative study of literature. And the same stories can be understood in different ways from different perspectives also. And this is the last part that I'm going to talk about, is discourse as a symbolic act. You have to understand that all literature is a kind of symbolic act. It's a representation. It's not the reality. You have to understand this. And nobody can tell you the truth about those events. When I say this, I'm not talking about literature alone. I'm even including history, which is supposed to be telling us the truth. No. Discourse has comparative representations. You can compare historical writings and narratives as well as poems. This is what we call new historicism. New historicism says that history is always selective. Therefore, history is also a part of fiction. It's not total truth. Narratives, we understand, are not always truth, but then narratives can also be about historical events. So they are also telling us something. Not only this, narratives, novels can also tell you the story of a particular time. So in a way, they are also historical record of that time. You can see that. And poems, of course, also do that. So you can make comparisons between all of these historical narratives as well as historical books. They can be wonderful. And even films, historical films. There are so many historical films, and you can make very good comparative studies of those things. Of ideas, values, judgments, ethics. Just as we say, Ramayana has been in understood terms of ethics in our country. In other country, in different kinds of ethics. Similarly, every book is a kind of, is a little compendium of ethical values, certain judgments. They make judgments about good and bad. Somebody is called a villain, somebody is called a hero. It's only because you kind of consider that this person is good, therefore he deserves to be called a hero. The other person can be called a villain. Judgments are given, and those judgments can vary. The same characters who could be villainous in one's character, in one's eye, can be a hero. You know that there are countries, there are communities which also worship Ravan. Ravan was a blessed one. He had the benediction of Shiva on him in a number of ways. So there are communities, they also think of those. So ideas also can be compared. Of cultural practices, discourses, stories, or literature, they deal with social norms. They deal with certain conventions. They deal with certain traditions. And in order to compare traditions, in order to compare conventions, in order to see even the social norms, for example, how marriage is conducted in a say Punjabi family, how marriage is conducted in a Marathi family, how marriage is conducted in a Bengali family, or how marriage is conducted in an English or your German or French. You can even make comparisons of these things, and there are discourses available on this. They can make very good comparisons of these. Comparative studies can include all of these things. Of faith, religion, rituals, divinity. In what way divinity is conceived, how God is conceived, how gods and goddesses are related to each other, and what kind of rituals people do, in what way prayer is done, in what way, other rituals related to religion or birth or death or say worshipping. You can see there is a lot of room for comparisons, especially in the times when globalized environment is available to us. Everything is available on the click of a button. Do you know that today, for example, I wanted to see guide once again, just to revise my ideas of the last part. I didn't have to kind of wait. It immediately, I opened up YouTube and I saw the parts which I wanted to see. So even lots of books, lot of documents are available for comparison immediately. This kind of study is more easy these days. Discourse within discourse, I've just given you example of how Sahir Ludhianvi's words have been transplanted into a different kind of a situation. There are discourses within discourses. It's not simple. For example, if you are reading any love story, there could be references about, Soni Mahiwal. There could be reference to Laila Majnu. or there could be references to Romeo Juliet. So all of those are part of those little parts entered into this. They are all symbolic. And figures of speech. Figures of speech are very interesting. How do you compare them? How do you compare, for example, the beauty? Is it always Chandrama? In your culture, it may be Chandrama. In another culture, there may be something else. In your culture, cow is pious. Cow stands for piety. Cow stands for say something which is religious symbol. But is it so in other cultures? No, they are not. So people create images. Literature people create images. They create hypertexts, hidden or open. Sometimes they tell you, sometimes they don't tell you. And they can be planted quietly in the part of your narratives. Even those things need some kind of comparison. Okay, that's how your comparative literature studies can become fuller, to my mind. Thank you very much. That's the end of it. I'll be very happy if you have any questions to ask. If I'm able to answer, I'll be very happy.
So thank you so much for such a very insightful, engaging, and interesting session on comparative literature and discourse transformation. I am very sure that this has immensely helped and enlightened all the participants, and especially all the students who are engaged in comparative literature research and studies. So you have, in a very efficient way, looked upon different literary texts and other kinds of cultural productions, the context in which they are produced, which can lead to plurality of texts. How a single text can itself exist in different ways. And as a result, and as you were doing it, you touched upon production, how a text is produced from different points of view, as you were, particularly when you were referring to the classical texts, some of the classical texts, and also reception, how a text can be received and interpreted in different ways, and as a result, leading towards multiple translations, and how the process of translation is itself creation of meaning. And how we can also read a text in multiple ways, how there can be alternative readings of a text. So your session on discourse transformation in comparative literature has been very useful. I am very sure for all the participants and the fraternity here. So now we open, yes ma'am.
I wanted to thank Professor Singh. That was a very interesting session, sir, especially the examples that you gave us about how literature can be transformed and transplanted in different contexts, and how the same discourse assumes different meanings when read from different perspectives. I'm sure your talk has enlightened our students and researchers alike. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for these kind words. But if there is anyone who would like to ask anything, if I can answer, I'll be happy.
Good evening to you, Professor Gurupdesh. This is Prakash Joshi, and Aloysius is a good and wonderful colleague of mine. I'm not turning on my camera because I'm in a very informal situation, sitting in a hotel room. I'm out of my city on an official task, but then it was so engrossing and so powerful a lecture of, I think one of the best that I may have heard in my long career. But I just wanted to put in. I wouldn't say that I have a contrary opinion, but I have seen some situations of comparative literature in the West. I've been a part of that too. I won't talk about that, where pieces of literature, pieces of texts, or pieces of cultural products, they exist in a single space simultaneously, and there is absolutely no effort to see or seek any comparison among them. They just coexist. in one space. I mean, I'll give you a concrete example. For example, a department of comparative literature where I taught. So the group of teachers there taught texts from Mexico to Canada to India to China, and there was no comparison actually going on. But then somewhere in the receptacle, in the minds of the students, some kind of comparison was happening, but there was nothing ostensibly being done. And I was, of course, doing Indian texts there. So, what is your take on this, sir?
I think I probably made this clear at the beginning where I said globalized literature. Now you can see this slide where I'm talking about literature without boundaries.
Right.
Globalized literature, where literatures from different cultures can be treated at par with other literatures because there is some kind of a thematic or discoursal commonality. There can be, and people can study them very easily. But I said my lecture would not take care of that. My lecture would be dealing only with the evolving forms of certain texts. That's what I meant. I don't deny what you're saying is right, and this is possible. Why not? For example, in India, there is so much literature on partition. There is partition literature from Punjab. There is partition literature from Hindi writings. There is so much partition literature from Urdu and Bengal, of course. And lots of people have done this kind of comparison, and there can be very legitimate. And there can be also historical texts. They can be equally an important part of comparison. I think there is, you're absolutely right when you say that. I don't deny that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Ritu has a question. You can address the question directly since you have raised your hand. Ritu? Do you have any query? We can see that you have raised your hand. Yeah, you can address the question directly. So is there anyone else?
Sorry, sir, no question.
It's okay, no problem.
Hello, sir. I don't have a question, but I really want to thank Professor Gurupdesh sir for his invaluable insights. And I remember that sir would bring the entire world to our classroom when I was his student, and he would make literature so relevant and relatable. Thank you very much, sir, once again for the same experience. Thank you, sir.
Thank
we
you very
really
much.
look forward to more such sessions in the future as well. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. We look forward to it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Shall I log out?
No, so now let us move on to the official vote of thanks. Nilay, please deliver the official vote of thanks. Nilay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, on behalf of Department of English and Modern European Languages, University of Allahabad, I would like to express heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished speaker, Professor Gurupdesh Singh, for delivering such an insightful and engaging lecture today. So your lecture on the topic Discourse Transformation and Comparative Literature was truly enriching. Your views on the translation of Urdu poetry and various emotion it evokes in translation was especially thought-provoking. Sir, your analysis of different versions of Ramayana across the world, particularly how they differ and offer us new perspectives, gave us much to reflect upon. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to our Vice Chancellor, Professor Sangeeta Srivastava, the head of the Department of Modern European Department of English and Modern European Languages, Indrani Mukherjee ma'am, and the convener of this workshop, Dr. Aloysius Sebastian, and along with everyone who was involved in the smooth conduct of this event. A special thanks to my fellow scholars who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make this possible, and to all the participants who joined in huge number to make this session successful. And thank you, Aloysius sir, for giving me this opportunity to conclude this session. Once again, Thank you all for joining.
So thank you, everyone. A special thanks to Sir. Thank you so much, Sir. And we look forward to having you with us again whenever an opportunity arises. Thank you, sir.
You're most welcome. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
And thank you very much to Indrani ma'am for all the support and encouragement. Thanks to all the participants. Thank you all. So we are ending the meeting here.
Yes.